In hour number 2, we start things off. Now, we have to ask. I've got to ask now. Is Bart on his second cup of coffee?
Yes, I am, John.
Nice.
Yes, I am.
Nicely done. Okay, so what's the mug? We have to ask what the mug is.
We got the Arsenal mug this morning because we have Premier League starting this weekend.
Yes, we do. And so how optimistic are you, sir, about your Gooner Gunners?
As optimistic as I was last year, which means I think that second place is solidly ours. Look, unlike Canada, when they cheat, they can't win anything.
Don't make me laugh.
Manchester City cheats, not only cheats, gets away with it, and still wins.
Oh, man. Oh, you see, you got me all laughing all of a sudden, and you can't do that right now. Man's on medication, so he can't, so he doesn't cough on the air. And so what do? You make me laugh. So
I can't promise that I won't do that the rest of the segment, John.
I know. All right. So I know that I wanted to start discussing a lot with the women's national team, and I want to kind of go through a lot of different things with it. But can Emma Hayes' impact be overstated, or are we still underselling what Emma Hayes was able to do in a very short period of time?
I think I'm going to go to both extremes on this.
Sure.
The first is that Emma came in and provided a better framework for these astounding athletes to play in. She revitalized the confidence this team should have, this team needs to have in order to win. And I think that in itself is what ended up making this team so successful. On the flip side, this team has been talented all along. The talent on this team has never not been there, despite what some people say. And we'll talk about that when we get there, because I have a rant prepared for these people who tried to kill us off left.
Man's got a rant. Look out. That's what Mondays are for.
But this team has always had talent. This team has always had world-class potential. And a lot of that also comes down to the players for believing in themselves, for finding in themselves the greatness that they've always had and being able to execute. So it's a lot on Emma, but I think to put it squarely on Emma negates the greatness these players have within them and all the hard put into making themselves phenomenal soccer players and true champions.
You want to go ahead and do your rant?
John, the reports of our death were greatly overstated.
Greatly exaggerated.
The rumors of our demise were false, to be quite honest. There were people telling us that the world had caught up, people telling us that our league was trash, people telling us that the U.S. wasn't producing enough talent to win at the international level. And let me just say, those people are clowns, John. They are clowns because they don't have a gold medal after this. You know, we do. We have the gold medal. They're still trying to say that, oh, well, NWSL actually isn't that good. And, you know, the U.S. only won 1-0 in all three of their knockout games. You know what you did not do? You didn't win a gold medal. So you need to sit down, close your mouth, and recognize that the U.S. women's national team has been, is, and will continue to be the standard bearers for this sport. And without the women's soccer team, the U.S. women's soccer team, most of these women who in other countries are enjoying great success, higher pay, better infrastructure, better facilities, it's not possible without the U.S. women's national team. And y'all wanted to write us off. You wanted to write off this program for being washed. Why? Because of one bad tournament. Well, Spain had a terrible tournament by their standards. They didn't even medal. They looked bad in the group stage. No one's writing them off. They just want to see us fail because they cannot accept that the U.S. is actually good at this darn sport. And they don't want to admit that the U.S. can play with talent that involves not just technical skill, but athletic ability. And they don't want to have that in their brain. I don't want to just look at the Europeans because I think it's a lot on them, but everywhere else in the world trying to knock us down, saying, oh, well, you know, the world's caught up. You're never going to win another international tournament. You are wrong, and you look foolish. And they're not apologizing because they're too proud for that, because they're darn Europeans who think they've invented every single thing that this planet has ever given us. So sit down, close your mouth, and show some damn respect to the greatest team in the universe.
Oh man, no doubt.
Fired up this morning, John. We got a gold. We got our 5th gold medal. 5th gold medal.
Yeah.
5.
5. One more than 4.
5.
On the way to
no
6.
other team has done it more than once, John. I mean, Canada, Germany, and Norway. They got one. They got one.
Yes. So and
Singular.
one is on the way to 5, but you got to add another couple.
You have to add 4 more. And on top of that, we've only not medaled at these games one time. So that's the thing. Is like 2016. Okay, you had a bad tournament. You know what you did in 2019? You won the World Cup. 2023, you had a bad tournament. You know what you did? You won gold in 2024. This is what this team does. They win. And to go back, that is something Emma brought in. She brought in the culture of winning that these girls needed to remind them of their greatness, because they are great and they have the talent to win.
I mean, the post-match presser where she's sitting with Lindsey Horan, and Lindsey Horan just becomes emotional listening to what Emma Hayes has to say about the whole process. I mean, that's to have that kind of impact early. That says something. I mean, and Emma's interview with Mike Tirico, where she is starting to break down about what America has given to her. All of these full circle moments coming together through interviews and press conferences and what have you, I think it opens a bit of a window as to what you've seen in a very short period of time.
And I think, again, it's important to recognize the impact Emma had on this team. But I think Emma, I feel like she just felt like this is the job for her, right? Because what she did at Chelsea was fantastic. She built from scratch a program that is now, the beacon of that country in that league. And by the way, I will say, like, the Women's Super League in England is, for my money, the second most competitive league in the world. I mean, you look at the amount of money that these clubs are actually investing in their women's sides. They have multiple teams that on a weekend I said multiple, like, because Tottenham, Liverpool, they're starting to put in money. Villa, they're starting to get it. They're not quite on our level, but she did her job at Chelsea and in England, but now she saw this as an opportunity, not just to make $1.5 million a year, but to also resurrect a program that was at its lowest point. I mean, I think it's fair to say that this program, after the 2023 debacle, was at a very low point. But I think, again, the frustrating part, and if you listen to the Soccer for Us pod, if you listen to me talk here, if you listen to anyone talk, we saw the talent. These girls are talented. And mind you, we still didn't have our best selection. Like, Katerina Macario was missing this tournament. Like, there's still talent to be found in the U.S. And the fact that Emma recognizes that, but saw that the mentality needed to be reforged, is, I think, her greatest accomplishment during the not even feels like she's not even been around for, I think it's 10 games now she's been around. She finally hit 10 in the gold medal match. So 2 handfuls of games she's been around, and we're already at heights that this was a phenomenal tournament. Beating Germany twice, which I don't think anyone wants to talk about that for some reason, but you beat Germany, who, by the way, gets a bronze medal on their way to kind of resurrect. It took them getting an NWSL goalkeeper to get back to that level, but it was a masterclass of motivation, of team building by Emma, and then a masterclass of talent on the field by the women. And I think if you talk about one or the other, you're not understanding what it takes to build a champion.
And in the sport of soccer, last time I checked, you have to put the ball in the back of the net.
That is generally how you win. Yes, John.
Okay. So if you have
unless you're Atlanta and you also let the net a lot.
Unless you have an individual who stands in front of the device that you are supposed to put the ball into to have offensive success.
Yep.
And there's an individual who has that particular occupation for the U.S. women's national team. And by all indications, she's pretty damn good at her job. Where would you put Alyssa Nair when it comes to the pantheon of the discussions of goalies, not just where the U.S. women's national team is concerned, but I guess we'll go ahead and open it up to this solar system or any other solar system that we're talking about. I can't think of a goalkeeper that has been on as solid, spectacular, whatever adjective you want to use, a solid run of form that we've seen from Alyssa Nair. And it's outright obscene at times what we see from her when it comes to her ability to keep the U.S. in matches. She goes full-blown starfish to make a big save in the tournament.
Yeah.
And, it's insane to see what Alyssa Nair is capable of doing. And her teammates finally got her to smile after a tournament. I mean, it's like, what the hell's the world coming to now?
Well, I mean, look, you have to first start with the fact that Alyssa Nair is the first woman to record a shutout in both an Olympic and World Cup final. And I think that is where you just kind of have to start with the narrative, because I think it's very true that Alyssa has been part of some truly great teams. It's really hard to compare eras because, first off, I think when you go back to the OGs with Brianna Scurry, who has a gold and a World Cup, by the way, as does Hope Solo. So all of these keepers that we're going to talk about have achieved some pretty darn good accomplishments. But I think Alyssa is doing it, one, as the most doubted number one the U.S. women have ever had, right? I think everyone knew that Bri was the number one, and then, Hope Solo took over in 2007, and despite Greg Ryan deciding to be stupid for a match, Hope Solo was the number one. I still can't get over that. I want to talk about one of the dumbest things that a man's ever done. But I think what you're seeing now is Alyssa Nair is doing this in an era where, and this is the truth of the matter, is the world has elevated its game and there's more contenders than ever before. But Alyssa Nair kept 3 shutouts in a row en route to a gold medal against Japan, Germany, and Brazil. 3 teams, especially, Germany and Japan, World Cup winners. Brazil, perennially a great and attack-minded team. Those things, again, can't be lost. This woman has pitched shutout after shutout after shutout in big-time moments. And then I think when you just think of the Alyssa Nair career, it's the big moments. You think about 2019, the PK save against England in the semifinal. You think this tournament, the starfish save against Germany, you had 2 big saves against Brazil this match. You even think to some of the lesser tournaments, talking about, getting 3 saves and a penalty kick make and a gold cup. And by the way, doing it last summer at the World Cup as well. Those moments, to me, give her more notoriety than Solo and Scurry. But she's also, I think what does it for me is she's had to face more big moments. When you think of Scurry, you think of the 99 World Cup, the penalty shootout to win it, right?
Yep.
But let's be real honest. The tournament up to that point was not exactly contentious for the 99ers. And that's just the reality. It wasn't, China was obviously the team you're going to have to face and beat, and you did. For Hope Solo, 2003, 7, and 11, specifically 7 and 11, it was a little disappointing for her specifically. But again, the amount of moments she had to face outside of the final weren't really that numerous. So when you look at Alyssa Nair and how she's had big moments in every tournament she's played in, how she's had big moments that helped her team win just about every tournament she's played in, I think those things you have to really look at and go, this woman has accomplished something that others before her haven't. Not saying that Hope or Bry couldn't do that, because we don't know. They weren't facing the same level of competition game in and game out. But the fact that Liz has been able to do it in these tournaments against stiff competition, to me, says a lot about her and her, what should be her narrative and her story.
So a moment like this.
And now she takes third. Still can't believe her tipping onto the post in the World Cup knocked them out. A chance for redemption. Nair into the bottom corner. This is the Alyssa Nair game.
Oh my goodness. Sings 2, steps up. Last second opens up their hips, slots it into the far corner. What a penalty kick that is.
So that moment, and maybe this one.
This could end it. Jessie Fleming, the Canada captain, taking on the responsibility of leading this new era in the women's national side. The game at her feet. Save for a third time by Nair! She saved 3. She converted 1. Alyssa Nair has almost single-handedly sent the United States into the Women's Gold Cup final.
So stuff like that? Is that
stuff like that, John? Stuff like that. And again, I just think that when you think about her career, she just has more big moments. Now, don't get me wrong. Hope Solo has some big moments. I mean, 2011 specifically, you go and you beat Brazil in a penalty kick shootout, mainly because of her heroics as well. But yeah, I have to just give Alyssa Nair so much credit, because she's doing it against stiffer competition game in and game out, and she's been able to come up with those big moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's been fun for those of us who get to cover her on a daily basis. And you just kind of, I don't know if not being surprised anymore with stuff that we see. It's like, yeah, okay, that fits, everything. Yeah. You see something and the incredible almost becomes normal and accepted right now with Alyssa Nair.
I mean, I think that again goes to the testament of how good she's been, and how reliable she is. Her teammates don't have any doubt in her. I think a lot of the fans might, but her teammates clearly don't. And she's proven time and time again why she deserves to have the faith and trust. I know specifically I've been saying we need to move on from her for a while, and that's nothing against her. It's because of looking at her age and wondering if she can be there for 2027. But Casey Murphy hasn't done anything to prove that she belongs there yet. No offense to Casey. She's been good, but hasn't shown that. That said, Alyssa never really showed that until she got her chance. And I think that's something that I will give credit to Vlatko a little bit, is he allowed Casey to play more frequently. If you remember, I think one of the reasons why Alyssa Nair was so not untrusted, but we were skeptical of her, is because Hope Solo played just about every damn match from that 2007 World Cup until she was cast off in 2016. I mean, she had a good decade of being the number one, and Liz didn't play. She didn't. I mean, she got her first cap in 2014, but she didn't hit double-digit caps in a year until 2017, and that was again right after Hope Solo had whatever you want to say. She was dismissed from the team in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So again, I think when you look at it, it just was a matter of we weren't sure, because we had this great keeper in Hope Solo, who also, by the way, a very different person from Alyssa Nair. Mm-hmm. Hope Solo will tell you that she's great.
Yes.
Alyssa Nair will credit her teammates. And I'm not saying either one is wrong. I'm just saying they're different, So I think that is something to note too, is that Hope Solo's personality played into her aura, but also the fact that she was the starter for so long, and then we got Alyssa Nair and we were like, how does this translate? She's done phenomenally. I mean, again, 2019, you get a Women's World Cup, you get a shutout in the final. 2000 2023, none of the problems, that was not an Alyssa Nair issue, right? I mean, you got to remember, Alyssa Nair conceded 1 goal the whole damn tournament, and that was an unsavable shot against Netherlands. And, that's impressive. She got shutouts against Vietnam, Portugal, and Sweden. We still, people don't want to admit it, we didn't lose in 2023. We may have been knocked out in a penalty kick shootout, but we didn't lose, and Nair still saved penalty kicks in that. And to this day, you can't convince her she didn't save that one that they said was over the line. Technology, what it is. So it's hard to compare eras, but I think you just have to understand Alyssa Nair has had more big moments because she's faced more big moments, and she's come up on the good end of those more often than not.
Naomi Girma obviously reinforced the fact that she is the Secretary of Defense, and to get high praise instantly in a tournament from your coach, that, once again, not necessarily a surprise, but we had some behaviors and some thought patterns reinforced with this women's national team as well, not just on the back line, but all the way through.
Girma is, I think Emma Hayes said it best. She's the best defender she's ever seen. I think she's the best center back I've seen in the women's game. And I mean that sincerely. But she's also filling in for a long line of outstanding center backs on the women's national team, from, Sauerbrunn, who she in theory replaced, to then to even going back to Joy Fawcett in the days of, Carla Overbeck as well. We've had some phenomenal defenders in this program, but Girma has taken all of her athleticism, all of her on-field smarts, combined it with the just gracefulness that she plays with, and use that to create a center back. Even with Davidson, who played really well, you were talking about Girma. And she's clearly a leader on the field. She's still very young, but she's the vice captain for a reason. She's vocal, but she seems to be also able to control and lead herself well as her teammates. And that, to me, is where the U.S. looking forward is in such great hands with Naomi Girma, not just as a great defender, but as a leader on this team.
Who else, other than Triple Espresso or the Trident or whatever nickname you want to give it, who else for you in this tournament reinforced a thought pattern going in that coming out, we were like, yep, okay, so this is a consistent thought pattern from those of us that cover, not the reactionary good, bad, oh my God, you suck, no, you're great, you suck.
Oh, yeah. I got to be honest, I don't know if there was anyone who reinforced anything other than Girma and Triple Espresso. And I think, well, no, I think maybe Emily Fox reinforced that she's a really good defender. Don't expect her to contribute much to the attack.
Mm-hmm.
I think Coffee reinforced that she is good at certain things. I still think it's fair that the U.S. does not have that Julie Ertz replacement. Granted, Julie Ertz is one of one, so yes. I get it. But I think that's the thing that gives me the most hope going forward, is there's still ways for this team to improve. And you look at the Trident of Death, the Triple Espresso, whatever one you want to use. They have the potential to even continue to improve. But then you add into that Cario type player, Jaden Shaw. We saw Croy Bethune. These are players who can elevate that and provide depth. I think that's the other thing when you look at this team specifically. There aren't a lot of key players, if not maybe two, that won't be returning for the next tournament, right? You're probably not having Nair as a starter. We'll see. She keeps defying age, but I think that's a question. And then Lynn Williams is unlikely to be a true contributor going forward, and that's just, again, an age question. We'll see. I think you have to look at also Rose Lavelle and Lindsay Horan and say, for Lindsay Horan, she had a not great tournament.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. So that was, I think, a lot of people who have been hating on her for a while will feel justified. But these people also seem to think that European leagues are better, and Lindsay's a leader for one of the best European clubs. So I don't know, John, the math ain't math in there.
Yeah.
But I think Horan and Lavelle have a lot more that they need to prove, because there's a lot of talent behind them. And I think that, to me, is the question I have coming out of this: is where do we plug in the young, talented players to make this team even better than what it was we saw this past 3 weeks?
At Barnabas Prime 19 at SoccerForUSPod, hanging out with us as he always does to start hour number 2 on a Monday. You bring up an interesting point, because this is what caught the U.S. women's national team in the past, is that transition from the established stars to the young players that deserved that chance, that we all know at the time, insert player that you want to reference here, that deserved the opportunity, but they were roadblocked by the older established players. And so you don't have as many of those coming out of this particular tournament and heading down the road, but you still have those players, big name players, that have done your program well over time. And now, you have a new coach that's a part of this. And so this dynamic is something that we're going to have to navigate and see how Emma Hayes handles Lindsay Horan, Rose Lavelle, new players, old guard, that kind of a thing. So you're out of this tournament, but that seems to be, I think, one of her first challenges here.
So I think one thing you have to understand, John, and as you know, the circumstances are different now. And I don't think we changed and adapted to this new circumstances quickly enough. Where before this period of time, really since before 2020, the U.S. women, because of their CBA with U.S. Soccer directly, bringing in new players was hard. Because the way they had their CBA structured rewarded longevity, rewarded consistency in player call-up, because if you added new players and they got enough call-ups, then they all of a sudden started getting paychecks as well. So that's one of the benefits of the new CBA, where they're not getting paid a salary, basically, right? That was the issue. So now that you don't have the salary structure, or even this subsidy structure with U.S. Soccer and NWSL, you do have the ability to bring in players whenever you feel like it, right? You should be exploring the depths of talent in NWSL. And again, that is deeper than any league in the world. So Emma has her job cut out for her, because she needs to actually do some scouting,
Curtains, baby.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit that, you got to go do some recruiting, to go do some scouting. You've got a Lily Johannes that you still got to convince that she needs to play for the U.S. women. You got some other players in NWSL, some of them brought in, but even a girl like Hal Hirschfeld, who wasn't truly part of the team, didn't get the medal even though she was on the team. Those are players, and there's more. I mean, we saw Emily Sams, but there's other center backs in this league that probably need to get looks as well. Right backs and left backs. I mean, I think left back is a question. So Emma now has the ability to use camps going forward to actually explore the depths of the player pool. And I think that's something that other coaches either haven't been able to do for legal reasons, we'll just put it that way, or in Vlatko's case, didn't do a good enough job at actually turning over every stone to find the depth.
It's going to be interesting with that going forward, and seeing how this gets navigated. I know that a lot of folks going into this tournament, they looked at the Alex Morgan omission, and they were like, but she was on the commercial, promoting things. But yeah, the Alex Morgan, I'm sure that a lot of folks initially were surprised by the Alex Morgan omission, but you saw what Emma Hayes saw in the attack, and having the talent that was on hand. And to your point, it is going to be an embarrassment of riches, I think, for Emma Hayes over the next handful of years, because of all of the young talent that's here. And just happens to be local, Hirschfeld, Croy Bethune, and just saying. And all right, sidebar. The not getting the damn medal for being on the roster, that bugs the hell out of me. I mean, I know that like in the past, if you were the manager of the team that won the gold in baseball, you didn't get a medal. But the fact that you're on the roster, but you're a reserve or whatever the terminology is, that just bugs the hell out of me that you don't get a medal.
Well, John, there's a lot of things we should change about the Olympic soccer tournament. That might be one of them, because why do you have alternates when you just have a squad of 23 players?
Expand your roster.
Abby, Jane Campbell, and Hal Hirschfeld did not get medals because they never appeared on an actual match day roster. They were alternates, but they were never fully rostered. Whereas some of the other alternates, like Croy Bethune and Emily Sands, made match day rosters, so they got a medal. But Hirschfeld and Campbell didn't. So I think that would be just the easiest solution, is just make it a 23-player roster. And you should also increase the field to 16, like you do on the men's side. If anything, the men should only be a 12-person tournament, but that's
but we can't expand the women's tournament to 16 because of the costs involved. What an unmitigated bunch of what?
Yeah,
horse-ish. We can't expand the tournament to 16. The hell you can't.
But we let Australians break dance, but we can't, can't let more soccer teams in.
Oh, that was another thing that annoyed the hell out of me, among other things. When you look at Marta and her legacy, I guess, what would you consider to be her legacy in the sport? I mean, she did get her swan song, even with her 2-match suspension. Brazil makes it to the last match. But when you think of Marta, what comes to mind?
Marta is someone who brought beauty to a game that for the longest time was dominated by grit and ruggedness. I think she single-handedly showed that South American women, can and should be able to play soccer. And I think you just look at her longevity. I mean, 2007, she gets the silver at the World Cup, and then she gets the silver in 2024 at the Olympics. That's it's a long career, John. That's 17 years?
17 years.
And that's just between medaling at tournaments. And I think she has shown she's brought Joga Benito, she's brought the beautiful game to the women's side of things. People want to credit Spain for doing that. No, Spain doesn't deserve any credit. Congrats, Barcelona. You figured out that you could allow women to play soccer. Marta was doing Marta was doing all these, the flair, the inspirational, before any of that. And I think that is something that the game will not just miss, but be thankful for a long time, because I think Marta redefined how women's soccer can and should be played.
What other takeaways do you have from the 5-ring circus in Paris? Good, bad, indifferent, ugly. What else sticks in your mind from the tournament?
Well, I do want to talk about the men's team for a second, because I think there's this narrative like, oh, well, men's soccer crapped at the Olympics. And I'm like, this was not a team that was supposed to medal. Like, this team achieved probably what you expected it, but there was no real expectation for it to achieve more. And I think if you're the U.S. men's program, you need to reevaluate, how do you build that Olympic team, and how do you convince some of your better players to be a part of it? Because I think it's very clear overage players of Miles, Georgie, and Walker weren't the difference makers that you needed in a tournament like this.
Some of them you kind of had to play. I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing is, I think legitimately Miles and Walker having to play at center back is the problem. You need to figure out how are you, finding better young center backs. But I think if you're the men's program, you have to look at how do you build a better Olympic roster. if you look at the tournaments as a whole, I think, as we discussed, you need to increase the women's side to 16 teams. It just makes sense. And I think also when you look at the women's tournament, and really the men's too, is the downtime in between games is too short. It's almost dangerous to have people playing with only 2 days of rest like this. Soccer is one of those sports where you do need a full several days of recovery. A lot of other sports, you don't need that. That's just the reality. Or your recovery time is just so much shorter. Basketball, volleyball, these other team sports, you can do that. But in soccer, you need a lot of downtime to recover because you need a full day to let your body. You just ran for 90 minutes. Your body needs to physically recover. And I think that's something that as we go forward, you do have to also then wonder, and this is something that, hey, we just won our 5th, so I love it. But does the women's tournament need to be a fully overage tournament? Does this format work? And do you want to continue to prioritize the Women's World Cup? Or something that I've seen on Twitter that I fully agree, I think futsal should be part of the Olympics as well. Absolutely. I think I would rather that than, I think that would be great. And by the way, our women's futsal team would probably do pretty well there because we properly support it. Mm-hmm. That would be something I would actually love to see, is how do you get futsal at the Olympics? Because it's a similar but so unique and different sport from, the outdoor game. And also, look, no matter how you count them, the U.S. won the most golds, the most medals. And despite what other people want to say, China didn't get the job done. We did. I mean, we won by 35, I think 30 some medals. Mm-hmm. And I know it's not a real competition. Let's be real honest. But it makes us feel good. And that's what matters. And the fact that we had multiple U.S. teams contribute to that medal count, teams, not individuals, but teams contribute to that medal count, is really awesome.
And you saw a lot of different sports getting the medals that were attached that were atypical medaling opportunities for the United States. I mean, you're seeing it in cycling, you're seeing it in canoe. Just all over the place. You're seeing, and there were ones where you were anticipating a medal and didn't get it because of the competition increasing. Water polo on the women's side.
And that, I think, again, is I think people need to understand why the U.S. is so dominant at these sports. And it comes down to one thing and one thing only, John: the NCAA.
Okay.
Maybe not one thing and one thing only, but I think the U.S. benefits greatly from having collegiate athletics, and we take that for granted a lot. And we also don't support a lot of the non-football and basketball, sports in the Olympic or in the NCAA. But we have collegiate water polo, we have collegiate rifle shooting, we have collegiate gymnastics. We have all these sports at the collegiate level. And so if you're looking to watch Pommel Horse Guy,
yes,
he's competing in men's gymnastics. If you're looking to support, who was another one that we had? There's tons of track and field people who are where they are because they were able to compete in NCAAs. Don't be afraid to go out and support those sports. They're called non-revenue sports for a reason, but you can still support them by going to a game and paying the $5 to $10 it takes to get in. And we have, unfortunately, here in the U.S. and Georgia, we don't have as many top flight men's soccer programs, but we do have one at Georgia State. Georgia Tech doesn't have either soccer program, but you can go support them and catch a game. So
there's your list right here. And it's an excellent unintentional plug of Soccer's in Session, by the way, because here's the list of all of the programs in the state of Georgia, all the conferences that are represented, men's and women's. You've got everything from Albany State as an HBCU that has a women's soccer program in the Peach Belt in Division II. You've got NAIA, multiple conferences in the NAIA. You have, to your thought, all the Division Ones in the Fun Belt, and the SEC and all these other places. And
I
so,
tell you what,
yes,
Sun Belt needs to step its game up because right now it's being dominated by two mountain teams. Just plug that in there. Marshall and West Virginia bringing soccer to the South.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, South's got something to say, and it just so happens that West Virginia is included. But yeah, we're going to be making the rounds and catching up with a lot of these programs. Some have already started their summer fall season. Some are holding off until Labor Day, but we're going to try and catch up with as many of them as humanly possible to let everybody know what's going on when it comes to soccer's in session. What's going on with SoccerForUSPod?
We're recording either tonight or tomorrow, depending on when our availability is, to brag and boast and celebrate the fact that women won a 5th gold medal. If you want analysis from this particular show, this is probably not it. Because at some point you just have to look. You can analyze and do all the XG and the X post shot expected goal and the all these metrics. Or you can just go, we frickin' won. Let's celebrate.
Well, and I think that there's going to be a different word than frickin' on your show. Maybe, possibly. There you go.
I won't blow that. I haven't blown the explicit rating yet. I haven't used too bad of words.
Oh. That was the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about before you get out of here. It was, let me see if I can find it. Apparently, and it has to do with our friends in Canada Soccer. Let me see if I can find it quickly before you get out of here. And I know I don't want to get you in trouble with the real world. Okay. So, and this happened once again on the weekend in the news dump from our friends at Canadian Soccer Daily. MP asks Heritage Committee to summon Priestman, Herdman to testify before Parliament over the Canada Soccer drone scandal. So, Ottawa obviously paying attention, with everything with the boycott back in Vancouver in 2022. Then President Nick Bontis and the CSA board had the players in getting called to testify. Now, with the drone scandal, NDP Member of Parliament Nikki Ashton put forward a motion calling the leaders of Canada's national women's soccer team and Canada Soccer to testify before the House of Commons Heritage Committee. Quote, this goes far beyond this one incident, and it even goes beyond the women's soccer team. This is about Canada's reputation in soccer and about Canada's reputation in sport, the Manitoba MP, Member of Parliament, said in an interview with CBC. We as members of Parliament and Canadians deserve to know how we ended up in this situation, more importantly, how we can fix it. We need to make sure that at the highest level, we're making it clear that you win because of the hard work. You don't win from cheating, from spying, and then not tarnishing other people's reputations. That's not what soccer is about. That's not what sport is about. That's not what Canada is about. And so Ashton wants Priestman, Jasmine Mander, analyst Joey Lombardi, and John Herdman to be called to testify before the Heritage Committee per Ashton's motion. And so a Manitoban member of Parliament is calling for folks to come to Ottawa so you can be talked to and grilled by members of Parliament. That's how mad folks are right now.
Well,
you're going to be officially mad now if you're getting called to Parliament Hill.
I can't argue with the members of Parliament who want real answers about what happened. Because first off, if you're looking just at the women's team, then you're looking in the wrong spot because clearly this has been institutionalized at Canada Soccer as a whole. So you need to call in the men's team and maybe the coach of the leading professional men's soccer team in the country. We jokingly say if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of truth to that, about everyone in this sport is in some way, shape, or form gaining an unfair advantage over their teams, their opponents. But I think the problem what you're seeing here is this is more about invading the sacred and private spaces of teams. And own to film practice is very different than hiding out in the woods with a walkie-talkie and some binoculars. and I think that's where this all comes down, is that this was an egregious and quite honestly shameful overstep of what you even consider within the ethical gray areas of sporting competition.
Do you think that this is actually going to happen, or was this Nikki Ashton, a member of Parliament, just sitting here and taking?
No, I mean, I feel like, I mean, it's obviously the U.S. We have one party who calls a damn investigation into anything that they just don't like, but this does need to be investigated, or at least questioned, because you need to figure out, is this something that, as I said, this is about a national embarrassment, but this is also something that, like, when you look at it, you need to understand, is this something that's happening in all Canada sports? How is this, how is government money, because Canada Soccer does get some level of government funding.
Yeah.
And so if any sort of government money was put forth to cheat like this, that's going to be a problem as well. And so, yeah, I mean, I think this is something that probably does need to be investigated. I would want this to be investigated by U.S. Congress if something like this happened as well. But, what it actually leads to, who knows? But there's a lot of questions that they definitely want to get answers to.
On Parliament Hill, we'll see if it happens. As always, my friend, thanks for dropping by on Monday after a busy weekend on a bunch of different levels that came at the end of it by adding number 5 to the whole thing. And still folks that were alternate.
We don't have soccer for like 2 weeks, John. What are we going to do?
Oh, well, we got soccer. I mean, you what's your mug, sir? Yeah, see, we got soccer.
We'll have U.S. soccer for a couple weeks.
Yeah, we got soccer. We got plenty.
We got U.S. soccer for a couple weeks.
We got plenty to talk about.
But yeah, it's gonna be fun.
We
have Premier League starting, and that'll be something we'll start. We'll talk about in our next episode, is kind of previewing that season for our guys and gals in Europe. We're at an inflection point, I think, for U.S. soccer right now. I think you got renewed faith in the women's team. You got some excitement and questions about the men's team. Hopefully we get a coach before September.
Yeah.
There's going to be some news coming out. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Be well, my friend. And hopefully I didn't get you in trouble with the real world. We'll catch up with you soon.
Y'all have a great Monday.